Section 2, Mongol and Ming Empires. What were the effects of the Mongol invasion and the rise of the Ming dynasties in China? So by the end of this section, how the Mongol armies built an empire, describe China under Mongol rule, understand how the Ming restored Chinese rule, and why the Ming explored the high seas for only a brief period of time. So if we look at key terms, people, the steppes, so there's a picture of a steppe. So if you're wondering what it looks like, there you go. Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, Marco Polo, Zheng He, those are all people. So if we look at the Mongol army building an empire, there's a few things that make the Mongols able to do this. One is if you look at their discipline, and this comes from Genghis Khan being able to unite these various tribes. Other people had tried, they weren't overly successful, but Genghis Khan is just one of those leaders who can make groups who typically don't work together unite. So he just had that kind of leadership ability, or he instilled that kind of respect, or however he did it, but he got it done. And so the Mongols they're pretty tough people. I mean, they live in a pretty rugged place. They're used to suffering through cold and heat and hunger, and so they're able to kind of put up with a lot. And so that strength and loyalty and discipline is going to help out. They use technology, the gunpowder. They may have used cannons and missiles in warfare. But the other thing is they can ride for long periods of time. They're excellent horsemen. They're excellent archers. They're kind of throwing a non-traditional style of warfare at people that makes it hard for traditional armies to be able to kind of counteract that. So that's another part. But when you look at what is accomplished afterwards, they establish order and peace. So for the most part, you pay some money to them. They'll leave you alone. They let you practice your religious beliefs. They're extremely tolerant. And what we see is this period under the Mongols where trade between Europe and Asia flowers, because you can travel all throughout Asia through this Mongol Empire, and you don't have to really fear anything. So it's going to lead to lots of economic growth for both Europe and for Asia. And it's also going to lead to a lot of cultural exchanges between many different people because of this increase in trade. So if we look China under government, or under Mongol rule, the Mongols wanted to preserve their identity, so they had an all-Mongol government. They didn't want to become like other groups that had been absorbed into Chinese society and then they lose their identity. So they keep other Chinese out and just keep it an all-Mongol government. This is the period of Marco Polo. And so he's traveling to China during the Mongol rule, and he writes about all the cool things that he sees. But in particular, the riches and the spices of Asia really pique people's interests. And so when you look at the Mongols and under Mongol rule, again, like that trade we talked about, that continues. And again, they're very tolerant of other beliefs. So the Ming restored Chinese rule. The Chinese resented being ruled over by the Mongols. And so as long as Genghis Khan and Kublai Khan are kind of in charge, things are okay. But sooner or later, you get leaders who aren't able to keep the Mongols unified. And so it breaks up into 5 different sections, or 4 or 5 different sections. And eventually, the Ming are able to restore a Chinese dynasty. And under the Ming, the economy continues to grow. Again, they continue to find better ways to farm, and when you get more food, you can have more people, which means you have more cities and industries. And so also with advancements in technology, the manufacturing is producing more, and they're more efficient at what they're doing. And so that blue and white porcelain that I showed you before, that really becomes the centerpiece of Ming culture. Now, the other interesting thing that happens is Zheng He. So Zheng He builds this huge fleet. He has 7 expeditions all throughout Asia, and may have even rounded the Cape of Africa to the Atlantic Ocean. So he's really exploring far and wide. Now, what happens is shortly after his death, this fleet is destroyed. And really, there's a variety of factors. One is that the Chinese always thought that their culture was superior to others, so they really didn't have a huge interest in continuing these explorations and continuing outside contact. The other thing is the Chinese wanted stability, and they thought the best way to maintain stability and order was to stick to tradition. So whenever you look at introducing outside things, that goes against tradition, and so it's going to kind of be a thing where the Chinese are doing a cost benefit analysis. And in the end, they decide that it's better to stick to old ways of doing things and to shut out outside influences than to advance forward. And as I talked about in class, this has a huge impact down the road because China in 1910 isn't much different than they were in 1410 or 1510. So they kind of get stuck in time.